This time on the Highland Woodworker.
There's a lot of people that say this might be the best bandsaw ever made.
We're going old school with Roger Gramm's vintage woodworking machines. Then learn about the one tool Popular Woodworking's David Teal never leaves home without. A master in the making. We'll introduce you to a young furniture maker who turned his passion into a full-time, successful profession.
A $25 million object in your hands, you don't want to slip.
Spend a moment with Don Williams, the international woodworking icon who spent decades caring for national treasures in one of America's most sacred institutions. These stories and more, this time on the Highland Woodworker. Hello, I'm Charles Brock, and I'm a Highland Woodworker. Just love coming to Highland Woodworking in Atlanta, Georgia. It's my home for fine tools and a woodworking education. There's a friend.
Hey, Chuck.
Ed Sent. So nice to see you.
Good to see you.
And Ed, my students just fight over my 12-inch RU rasp. I need another one.
I think we can take care of it. They're a favorite for our customers, and Aru has been around forever making beautiful tools for generations.
Well, you know, there's something about old tools. I have a friend, Roger Gramm, who uses vintage power tools to make his lovely furniture.
Sounds wonderful.
Well, let's check it out. Roger Gramm.
Hey Chuck, how are you today?
So nice to see you. Thank you for letting us come out here, and I'm just happy to see your work, like this beautiful Adirondack chair, and I hear that you are Nashville's great generalist, that you could build whatever somebody needs.
That's pretty much true. We do a lot of furniture. We do cabinetry, kitchens, built-ins, that kind of thing. We do some exterior work, arbors or really fancy fence kind of things, and some millwork, doors and windows. Some of that's, you know, is nice new front doors kind of things. The windows a lot of times is historic.
Well, speaking of historic, I understand that you love to use refurbished vintage stationary equipment.
Yeah.
And you have some to show us today.
We do. Yeah.
All right, let's go take a look.
This is a Oliver number 12 pattern maker's joiner with a 20-inch cutting width. I bought it from a guy just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I found him on the internet. There's a couple of websites devoted to people that love this old machinery like this. So I posted a want to buy kind of thing on there. I was looking for a 16 or wider. He had this one that he decided he would part with. So I went up there and got it.
So what were some of the situations you had to deal with in getting this to work in your shop, getting it to work for you? Because you make a living with it.
Right. Well, the first one was getting it off the trailer. The guy I brought it from had a forklift, which I don't have. So we dismantled it a certain amount, put it back together. This was in really good shape. I haven't done much of anything cosmetically to it.
Right.
I needed some new electrical to get it going right. And then I decided I'd rather to put a new cutter head in it. You know, it had the traditional old straight knife head in it, which works fine. I've just got these helical heads in a couple of other machines. I like the predictability of it, and there's almost no tear out, and I don't have to set 20-inch joiner knives either, which is a wonderful thing. So
we have kind of a combination here or a hybrid of the old meets the new.
Right.
And which is perfect. I mean, the cut you get out of something like this is great, and you can only get really great results off of a good heavy piece of flat equipment like this.
Well, that's it. I mean, and that's to me that there's two reasons I get the older stuff. One of them is it's just the appeal of it. I mean, it's this sort of almost an Art Deco design, and you know, parts of some of these, you know, decorations, if you want to call it that, on there. I think a lot of what's made today is just made for the expediency of it, and there's no, you know, artistic appeal at all. And then the other is, you know, if you need a 20-inch joiner, there are companies that make them today. You know, you're going to spend well over 10 grand for one of those. So I think I paid right at $4,000 for it.
And the thing that a joiner has to be is flat. And you know the age of this, it's not going to move anymore.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
that's just tremendous. You got a great cut and well worth the investment.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And it sounds like somebody was interested, that there's support with the websites.
There is. Yeah, you can get help in buying, fixing. You can get help with moving it across the country if you really need to. There's people on there that'll help you figure out how to do that as well without necessarily spending, thousands of dollars on a shipping company. What we have here is a little lower tech. This is a miter trimmer. The motor is your arm making the lever move. What we use this for is, if you're cutting a nice crown molding or other trim on a nice cabinet piece of furniture, particularly sometimes it's pre-finished even, you cut it on a chop saw, but you're just a hair long. Sometimes if you go back to cut that again, it'll want to tear it up or push it, or, and then you mangled that nice piece, you got to start all over.
Sure.
Well, this thing is just perfect for just taking off, a cut that you can almost not even measure if you need to. You can just slice off, a 64th or 32nd of an inch, like that, and you get a nice, clean, perfect joint out of it.
Wow.
This is a Delta 14-inch bandsaw, which, if you look at the magazines and all that these days, everybody's making a 14-inch bandsaw. It's really, a good general purpose size for most anybody's shop. And they've been making some version of this for decades and decades.
So this is almost like the prototype of everybody's 14-inch bandsaw.
Absolutely, it absolutely is. This particular one's a wood and metal cutting bandsaw. It's got a gearbox in the back. You can change the speeds on it, so it'll cut real slow for metalworking as well. I don't have it set up and don't use that part of it all that often, but it's good for that. But it makes a just perfect, medium-sized woodworking bandsaw, which is what we use it for.
Yeah, let's see it work.
All right.
It looks like it's got a great flat table on it, and interesting dust collection.
Yeah. Cuts like a bandsaw.
Yeah, and you can always use a couple of different size band saws in a shop, because you got the smaller blade on for smaller cuts like this. Mm-hmm. But I understand you have a monster.
We've got a pretty good sized one for the bigger things we need to do. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's go see that.
All right.
Well, I'm a bandsaw guy, and I've been looking forward to seeing your bandsaw.
Well, here you go. This is a Tanowitz 36-inch bandsaw. Depending on who you ask, there's a lot of people that say this might be the best bandsaw ever made.
Wow. It's a beaut. It is quite a massive bandsaw. I'd love to see this one run.
Okay.
And hear it too.
Yeah, it makes a little bit of a noise. Kind of sounds like an airplane taking off.
Yeah, what size blade is that?
I've got an inch blade on it right now. I forget what the length is. It takes a 237-inch long blade, whatever that is
Wow.
in feet. 20 feet, yeah.
And it's got just a huge throat on it.
Right.
You can do pretty much anything.
Right. You've got a basically 36-inch throat, and you can resaw, I forget, it's like 18 or 20 inches on it, something like that.
Something, you couldn't even get it up there hardly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So.
All right. Well, let's see what kind of cut it. Fabulous machine. And I want to tell you there, Roger, I have enjoyed seeing this equipment, and I'm going to go start looking for that website and start looking for some of these great pieces for my shop.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Roger.
Thanks for coming.
I've got that rasp for you over here, Chuck.
I can't wait.
This is the Roubo.
I tell you what, there's nothing like an RU rasp. I can't wait to get this one back in the shop. I'm going to test it out. I bet you it's a great one.
I think they'll love it.
Coming up, learn more about Popular Woodworking's David Teal's #1 rule. And later, woodworking legend Don Williams introduces us to one of his mentors. You're watching the Highland Woodworker. Saw Stop is the only table saw that stops on contact with skin. Its safety features and unmatched quality and craftsmanship have made it the best-selling cabinet saw in America. Put a Saw Stop in your shop. Rikon Power Tools, a leader in woodworking power tools for over 10 years with a passion for quality and performance at an affordable price. Rikon has a full line of dependable tools, including a long list of industry-leading bandsaws like their new powerful 10, 350, 14-inch Professional. Rikon Power Tools, tools designed by woodworkers.
Do you need wood? Then go nowhere but Bell Forest Products. Come stand in awe of our 20,000 square foot showroom that houses over 75 species of exotic wood, the largest in the Midwest. What more could you want? A knowledgeable staff? Well, come in and speak to one of these handsome young men because they know wood. They breathe wood, they eat wood, they live wood, they love wood, they are wood. So plan your adventure to Bell Forest Products, 200 East Hematite Street, downtown Ishpeming, or visit us online at bellforestproducts.com. Because we got wood.
Forrest, manufacturer of the award-winning Woodworker 2, presents the PVW blade, designed specifically for the rip and cross-cutting of plywood and plywood veneers without splintering or chip-outs. Highland Woodworking has been a leader in woodworking education for over 30 years. They offer all kinds of woodworking classes year-round, ranging from how to hand-cut dovetails and mortises, to how to sharpen a plane or a chisel, how to build a cabinet, a chair, or a bookcase, or how to turn a wooden bowl. There are classes on wood finishing, French polishing, and even antique furniture restoration. For a list of upcoming classes that may interest you, go to highlandwoodworking.com. One of the oldest tools in the box might just be one of the best for that special job. David Teal will show us what it is, this time on Popular Woodworking's tips, tricks, and techniques. David, you know, carrying one of these things around the shop all day is kind of ridiculous. I mean, who needs 25 feet and all that heft? How do you measure?
Well, suspenders is a good idea when you're wearing those too. So you want to work down a little bit. 25 feet is great for a contractor, not for a woodworker, so you don't really do that. Most folks will carry a smaller 16-inch or 16-foot, 12-foot, something like that makes a little more sense. Still a nice gradients, that sort of thing. But I used one of these when I was learning, but I also used a tool that I prefer for a lot of other things too.
What's that?
Always in my back pocket, my folding rule.
My grandfather's favorite.
And a lot of fun too. 5 feet, it's got all the dimensions on it you need. 16 of an inch markings, simple enough to use. It gets, in most cases, what you need to do, and its rigidity is what's one of the most valuable things about it. With a tape, you run out to a situation where it's going to start to bend up. If you start to measure inside something, you don't know if you're getting into the corner. And actually, this is, if you see the tip, what you just did there is a perfect example. How do I measure in here? Well, I'm not in the corner there.
That's right. It's
okay,
always
so that's not accurate. Try and get that to fit into the corner. It doesn't work. You want to measure across the diagonal to know if it's square.
Sure.
So with a folding rule, piece of cake goes right into the corner there, and you can take a look at your dimension. Say, yes, that's what I need. Double check, and you're ready to go.
Well, this is a very overlooked tool by many.
Let's don't overlook the other end, though, too, Chuck. On the other end is a slide-out rule that can be used as a depth gauge. if you're measuring the rabbet in the bottom of a drawer. How deep is it? Put it right there, slide it in, and it holds your setting. And you can take a look real quick to make sure you're double checking. Same thing with dovetails. How deep is your dovetail? Not a problem. Right there.
That's
Great tool for tool setups, table saws, routers, the whole thing. Use that as your depth adjustment. You can take a look at it real fast. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't use a 6-inch steel rule too. That's a good idea, very handy, have both of them. But in a pinch, this one's always in your back pocket. It'll give you 5 feet of measurement into a corner, and in a pinch, one of my favorite things, as I get a little older, when I drop something, make a hook and you can pick it up without any problems too. So save your back a little bit as well.
I could set up one of those for my mother-in-law.
There you go.
Although she would probably be dangerous. Hey, thank you so much.
My pleasure to share.
I can't wait to get home and try this. It's kind of the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, there you
I'm sure
go.
what to do
There
with
you
it,
go.
but I'll try.
My name is Chris Barber. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I own Barber Woodworking. We're a specialty woodworking shop ranging everywhere from custom cabinetry to custom furniture and anything that comes along. I've always said if it's wood and it's custom, that's what we do. I started out as a young kid doing mostly art, drawing all the time, drawing monsters and machines and buildings, and I kind of started going down a path of architecture, design, did some drafting in high school. My parents built a house, the house they live in today. They built that house when I was 7. My grandfather built it, and so I think there were some early seeds of just being around it, being around wood, being around tools. I took shop when I was in high school. I was just kind of always around it. And I was in my late teens, early 20s. It kind of clicked for me, the marriage of designing something and then going out and building it, and that there weren't really any rules. And I think that was my perception of woodworking before that time, was that you had to do it a certain way. It started to click that, man, this is something where I could do anything I want. And all these inspirations from early on, the artistic side of it, the design side of it, and then the craft side of it too, you know, that there weren't really any limits to how far I could go with it, was really inspiring. I think being younger, you know, some of the new aspects of really any industry, but certainly this industry, the online presence, you know, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, people are out there doing it. And so I think kind of being pretty acclimated to that world is helpful to kind of stay on the pulse of new ideas, and just really broadens influences. It's important to me to do it as much as I can anyway, to kind of show the next generation that, yeah, this is a path, this is something you can do, and you can take it as far as you want to take it, even if it's just doing stuff around the house or whatever. But that's something I'd really like to see, is just more and more opportunities for people to at least get exposed to this world, you know, woodworking and craft in general.
But we still strive to make them as perfectly as possible.
A new book and an old barn. Master woodworker, scholar, and author Don Williams tells us all about it. You're watching The Highland Woodworker. Masterpiece Wood Finish is a special 3-part oil and wax system designed to enhance the beauty of wood. It's easy to apply, maintain, and repair. Applying several coats of the base coat, mid coat, and top coat to a prepared wood surface will create a finish that will make a craftsman smile. I helped develop Masterpiece Wood Finish, not just for your masterpiece, but mine too. Are your tools Tormek sharp? Tormek, consistent, reliable, and razor sharp. Tormek, sharpening innovation. Introducing the ultimate flush trim router bit by Whiteside. Get CNC quality cuts from your patterns every time. Whiteside, industrial grade and American made.
Craig, from the first cut to the final assembly, providing woodworkers with products that help simplify woodworking challenges. Craig.
Saw Stop is the only table saw that stops on contact with skin. Its safety features and unmatched quality and craftsmanship have made it the best-selling cabinet saw in America. Put a Saw Stop in your shop. If you can't make it to Atlanta, then you can always shop us on the web at www.highlandwoodworking.com. Moment with a Master is presented by Masterpiece Wood Finishes, helping you build beautiful furniture. Don Williams has one of the most impressive resumes in woodworking today. From his role as a conservator at the Smithsonian to his translation of Roubo, it was such an honor to have a moment with this master. Monterey, Virginia, population about 150. But what it lacks in crowds, it certainly makes up for in limitless Virginia Highlands scenery. Just a few miles from the Highland Inn, up this windy country road, and somewhere off the beaten path sits the barn on White Run, a hidden woodworking retreat for one of the all-time authorities in the craft, Don Williams.
I've had the vision for this homestead for more than 40 years. And if you get a woodworker out in the country, he's got to have some place to do woodworking. And about 10 years ago, I started being in a position where I could look to acquire a barn or a workshop. And I'd always wanted a timber frame barn. And I actually found this on eBay. And so I bought it and had it dismantled and shipped to me here. And we started assembling it the day after Thanksgiving 2007. It's been under construction ever since and probably will be for a long time in the future, but it gives me a lot of space. It's a beautiful old timber frame building, southern yellow pine, probably built in the deep south and barged up the Mississippi. I would put it between 1890 and 1910.
Working with old wood is nothing new to Don. Decades of being the senior furniture conservator at the Smithsonian Institution always meant coming in contact with American history every day.
If I had to synthesize my job description at the Smithsonian, it was be creatively curious or productively curious.
Well, that curiosity had him creatively and productively caring for and restoring national and international wooden treasures like the Wright Brothers Flyer, Susan B. Anthony's desk, Teddy Roosevelt's globe, and even one of the oldest symbols in the U.S. government.
Working on the Mace of the United States, which was probably the most spectacular and moving object I've ever worked on. You know, a $25 million object in your hands, you don't want to slip.
The path to the Smithsonian started early in Don's life.
I was always puttering around making stuff. Some of it was probably pretty hideous stuff. I remember making my first piece of furniture when I was maybe 13 or 14 out of an old pallet. I took the boards of a pallet apart. And it just so happened that they were made out of black gum, which is a glorious wood. So, you know, here was a pallet of black gum. And I made myself a stereo cabinet because I was a teenager and had to have a stereo, and I had to have someplace to put the stereo. And my dad was sort of always a putterer, and you know, we did the annual renovation of the shed in the back that had all the tools and stuff. I always liked to do that. I always took shop classes in high school. The guidance counselors were just fit to be tied because I was taking a mixture of AP college prep classes and shop. You know, that's just not something you see. And they couldn't figure it out. When I was about 16, I think. I got a job as a janitor in a furniture store. And there was, in the furniture store, there was a little corner workshop where they repaired furniture. And when pieces needed to have a custom finish or custom work, we would take it to the shop. And I really liked that shop. I said, man, I want to work for that shop. And soon enough I did. It was Schindler and Son was the name of it in West Palm Beach, Florida. And the clientele was all Palm Beach based. So old money with old money things.
About a year prior to taping this interview, I was honored to be introduced to Fred Schindler and his sister, who also worked at the shop. Don invited them out to the Great Roubo bench build in Barnesville, Georgia.
His dad was, we call Pop, and they worked together. I guess by the time I came, Pop had sort of retired. He was kind of retired.
To finish this particular piece, my dad said Roubo would be proud, and he didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
So he told him about the book and said, we'll try to show you a copy, but they never did.
You never know what little thing is going to be big.
Don Williams' translation of Andre Roubo's To Make As Perfectly As Possible has been a huge success. He and our friends at Lost Art Press just released Volume 2 in this series called The Book of Plates, which contains all of Andre Roubo's 18th century illustrations.
Our goal is to get done with each volume and have as few facepalm moments as possible. Because you get through a book, it doesn't matter how many times you've looked through it, you get there and say, I forgot to put this in, or I should have expressed this way. That's the way the world is. And we are fallen and flawed people. And so we cannot help but have fallen and flawed products. But we still strive to make them as perfectly as possible. Well, this is a replica of a chair made by a maker named Samuel Gregg, who was working in the Boston area around 1800. You would appreciate the fact that, given your chairs, there isn't a square corner anywhere in this thing. It's a real pain to make. Gregg only made a few dozen of these that we know, and after having made them myself, I understand why he only made a few dozen.
I see, yes.
It's every piece in it. The closest we have to a straight piece are these dowel rungs. That's about it. Everything else is sculpted or steam bent or tapered or rounded. Every single part of it is made to reflect how a human body sits. And Gregg called these the elastic chair because the way he set these back slats up, this is actually a bit of a leaf spring. So that when you sit in the chair, it does just give a tiny little bit to the way you sit. And the beauty of these is really the painted finish. You're not seeing any wood. This is all painted finish on here, as were his. And the real feature of these is this beautiful peacock feather that my dear friend and protege Daniela Gross painted, and she's going to continue to paint the peacock feathers on these chairs as we make them. Its aesthetics is almost timeless. I mean, this is a chair form over 200 years old, and if you were to use a slightly different paint scheme on it, you could persuade people this is, 2015 art furniture chairs. I mean, it just is that sort of timeless.
Before completing a project, for Don, finishing techniques are never rushed or never just an afterthought.
For reasons of personality, peculiarity, whatever, I don't know. I've always loved the finishing process. The beautiful thing is it's not unknowable and it's not undoable. It's fairly simple. I mean, there's only 6 major considerations you have to do in order to get it right. And once you get those things done, you got to prepare the surface right. You got to choose the material right. You got to prepare the material right. You got to choose the right tools correctly. You got to put them on correctly and work in the right environment. It's only 6 things you have to pay attention to.
Although Don said goodbye to the Smithsonian in 2012, he has never stopped building, teaching, writing, and encouraging others interested in woodworking.
I'm going to be 60 years old, so I've only got 40, 45 good years of woodworking left. I've got a really concentrate on that. I think that professionally, the things that I'll be remembered for, I think will be remembered for, is at the Smithsonian creating a graduate school in furniture conservation and actually compiling the body of knowledge that was extant at the time, so that this is the standard body of knowledge for somebody who does furniture conservation that had never been compiled before, and I'm very, very pleased with that outcome. I'm a Calvinist, so I'm not allowed to be proud, but I am very pleased at that outcome. In terms of my work now, I would like to be remembered as somebody who helped revive appreciation for the decorative surface, somebody who worked really hard at Roubo for a long, long time. We're coming up on 8 years into the Roubo project, and I think that will stand the test of time for a long time, as long as English is a comprehensible language, which watching TV I'm not so sure it still is, but I think that 100 years from now people will still be looking at Roubo. And then also the Studley book that's going to be coming out, really the first time anybody has been able to approach that with a serious, scholarly approach, trying to minimize the starstruckness, because when you encounter Studley, you're starstruck, but yet it is not. On one hand it's mystical, but on the other hand it's not. I think people will remember that and hopefully use it as inspiration, because that's the point I'm doing this. I can go look at these things. I have access to I have a lot of entree because of my career path that a lot of people don't have. I don't have to share that with anybody if I don't want to, but I want to share it with them because I hope it inspires them the way it inspires me.
Shaping is what I do, and an RU rasp is just the perfect tool. This is a 12-inch cabinet maker's rasp, and it's a number 10 grain. It's half round on one side and flat on the other. The half round helps you get into those concave areas, and the flat side helps you to make fast work out of actually rounding over, making those flats, contiguous flats, and then rounding over your work. I can work big with it, making long strokes. I can work small with it, choke up, and just use part of the rasp. It's hand stitched, and you just won't find a better one for your shop. And my students all kind of fight over this one. Now I have 2 of them. I don't care how you say it, R-U, or Roo, whatever. It's spelled A-U-R-I-O-U. It is the best rasp for your shop. Improve your woodworking experience. Sign up for Wood News Online, a monthly newsletter showcasing the latest news, tips, and classes Highland Woodworking has to offer. By signing up, you'll receive the latest episode of the Highland Woodworker, special store promotions, and Wood News Online delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up today. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Until next time, I'm Charles Brock, and I'm a Highland Woodworker.